You can't talk about the history of the modern electric vehicle without talking about Nissan and its Leaf. The Nissan Leaf was for many people their first exposure to a mass market electric vehicle. But if you follow the EV world at all, you know that the Leaf has had something of a troubled history between rapid battery degradation issues, not so great charging infrastructure, and a style and performance spec which, compared to, say, Tesla, just didn't fight in the same weight class. And for many people, when they look at what EV they might want to buy today, Nissan doesn't cross their mind anymore, and that's really sad. But that might be changing. And if it's gonna change, it's gonna be because of this. I am standing in front of a pre-production Nissan Ariya, Nissan's new all-electric, ground-up crossover. Now, you might notice that this Ariya looks a little bit like Kit from Knight Rider trying to be all stealthy, in that the windows are the blackest of black, and this is a right-hand drive car, so being at the auto show, they don't want people looking and going, why is the steering wheel on the wrong side? But we can still get a good sense of what this vehicle is. The Ariya upends a lot of what we think of as the classic Nissan electric vehicle experience. This is a car with a liquid-cooled, thermally managed battery. This is a car with CCS fast charging instead of CHAdeMO. It is a Nissan for the 2020s. So I just want to acknowledge that I am probably not looking so fabulous right now because this car is tinted in all its windows incredibly darkly. We have had to add one of our lights to the dashboard. And to be clear, the front window of this car is tinted much darker than the roof of my Tesla. It is very much not in a configuration you would ever take on the road. But when you get into this car, I think the first thing I noticed is that it feels familiar. Not because it necessarily feels like other Nissans I've been in, but because it feels like so many EVs. You have a very nice floating console with a gear selector. You have a quite lovely steering wheel. You have a slightly curved wide dash, which is really about the same size as the one in the EV6. You have a very nice textured dashboard with buttons that are sort of concealed behind the surface. They're clearly capacitive of some sort. I like the interior. It's certainly not a Leaf. I don't know if I'm in love with it. I don't know if it's an interior that I look at and say like, oh, that's where I want to spend all my time. But I think it's an interior I could very happily live with. Up front in the Ariya, you have a cavernous, no, you don't actually. There's no frunk or anything. You have a motor right there. Not even like a plastic cover like a lot of companies do, but to be honest, part of the point of those plastic engine covers is to sound deaden, which you don't have to do in an EV. There is a surprising amount of sort of space here. I feel like it could have been rearranged to at least have like a Hyundai or Kia style front glove box type deal, but no, it's just a motor. There's a lot of piping and wiring. I suspect Sandy Munro would have a field day tearing this thing apart. But yeah, for a ground up EV, there are going to be a lot of people who are unhappy that it doesn't have a frunk. Personally, for people who might be disappointed that Nissan isn't packing much up front with a lack of a frunk, there's a lot to like in the rear. The Ariya has a really generous rear end, and I'm someone who likes a big rear end. Open the power liftgate, and you've got quite a bit of storage, both just in the regular load bay and underneath this false floor. And that's a feature I've come to really appreciate in my Tesla, the having of the false floor. You can also put the seats down in a 60/40 configuration, which would get you a lot more space. It's overall really nice. It is what you would expect from Nissan. Nissan has been doing crossovers and SUVs for quite some time, and they know what they're doing. Now, some people are going to point out that this is less space than you might find in some other electric crossovers, such as the Tesla Model Y, but I think for most people, it's quite generous and it's going to be all the space you could possibly need. Nissan envisages this as a family crossover, so the back seats are in many ways just as important as the front ones. And when you get into the back seats, the first thing I notice is that the seat back is a little more reclined than I would have expected. I found sort of if I sit back in the seat at all, I'm not really looking at the window, I'm really looking at the C-pillar. But the seats are reasonably comfortable. There's a fair bit of legroom. It's certainly not as spacious as, for instance, my mother's Murano was, but it's certainly a reasonable amount of space. There's a flat floor, although it is rather high. I know this is something that I harp on a lot with the back seats of electric vehicles, but again, I feel like I have to have my legs relatively high up due to the height of the floor compared to the height of the seat itself. That's a little frustrating to me. In this model, you have controls for heated rear seats. You also have USB-A and USB-C ports. It is comfortable. I like it. It is not quite as distinct as I would have expected. I feel, quite honestly, a lot like I'm sitting in a Nissan Rogue, albeit with a few more electric vehicle twists. Could I see going for a road trip in this car? Yes, absolutely. With 4 people. You certainly would not want to try putting 5 adults or maybe even like 5 teenagers in this car. It's not all that wide. But it is a reasonably nice place to be. I don't know at this price point if the Ariya offers so much more over some of its competitors, but I definitely think if you're looking for an electric crossover, this is going to be a car you're going to want to take a look at along with some of the other vehicles in this class. So there you have our first look at the Nissan Ariya, Nissan's first all-wheel drive electric vehicle and their first electric crossover. Does it have enough to put Nissan back at the top of the list when it comes to companies building cutting-edge, exciting electric vehicles? I'm not sure, but it certainly is a really compelling package and absolutely worth a look. That's it for today. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your thoughts below or in our free to join Discord chat room. There's a link in the video description. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and our other channel, Transfer Evolve Take 2, and give the bell a gentle ding to make sure you're told when our next video goes live. Thanks on behalf of the entire T-Crew go out to the folk on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month supporters, Chris Maxwell, Bennett Elder, Brian Newton, Jason Boder, Dave Kitchen, Michael Goad, Ricky Leong, Andrew Martin, Guido Jorhoda, Brophy Wolf, Tazan Legong, Gordon C., Stephen O'Donohue, Kyle Hodson, Anthony Coates, Regine Fellows, Rory Litwin, Anonymous Freak, Jim Burness, and Denny Hyde. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month supporters, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, Joe Bresney, JP Fagerback, Will Grayland, Matthew Drobnak, John Lyons, Christopher Lee Jones, Laura Reynolds, Paul Conway, Ellery Hensley, and Ian. Feeling left out? You can join Patreon at the link below. Click the join button right here on YouTube to support us here. You can also support us through Bitcoin, Ko-fi, or our cool swag store. All those links are below. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving!